Now you should be familiar with using DDD to debug Python code from watching the previous videos, and we're going to talk about how to use DDD for debugging C or C++ code. So for sample code, I have the summation.cpp file here, and this is just a C++ implementation of the same summation function from the previous Python videos. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that we do need to do something special when we compile this code. So I need to include the -g option here when I'm compiling the code, and this tells the compiler to include the debug, or sometimes called symbol table information, into the executable so that we will be able to see the source code and the debugger, etc. So first I compile my code using that option, and I could go ahead and run it and see what happens. We aren't getting the proper summation that we were expecting, so we need to do some debugging on this code. Now I go ahead and invoke DDD, and it defaults to a underlying command line debugger that is appropriate for compiled C and C++ code, so I don't need any other options. I just provide the name of the executable that I'd like to debug. We now have our DDD window open. Here we have our C++ source code up in this window. We can scroll up and down to see the entire extent of that. Again, we have our command line interface to the underlying debugger. This is now GDB, or the GNU debugger, for C or C++ code, and then our usual controls for taking various steps through our code, etc. If I just click the Run button, what you'll find is that it goes ahead and runs your program. It doesn't by default pause or stop at the start of execution. So what you will typically want to do is set up some sort of breakpoint or similar, maybe on the first line of code here. Get that breakpoint there. Now when you press the Run button, it's going to stop on that first line of code, and now you can use step, next, continue, etc. to start working your way through the code and understand what's going on and fix the problem in your code.